Crowd of people, what are they doing? You don't know what they are doing? Okay. Please, it's okay. Look, let me tell you one thing. If I ask a question, just tell me this and keep silent. If you continue making side talks, duk wanda ya ga dan uwansa yana magana, ka muntsine shi. In ya harare ka kuma Allah ya isa a madadin ka na faɗa. So let's keep silent because we don't have part time. Do you see these people? These are human beings, not human rice. You know you have rice and beans. They are human beings, not human rice. But you don't know what they are gathered for. You don't know what they are doing. Okay, I will talk about it later. But the people you have just seen are people who have gathered in a place after one organization placed adverts for jobs, for vacancies for employment. And do you think that organization, no matter how big it is, can employ up to 5% of these people? So, a lot of us here are students of the university or higher institutions. Some of us doing masters, some degree, some diploma or HND. Many of us might be from secondary schools. And if you ask everybody now, I'm sure at least 70 to 90% of my brothers here are in the university or colleges of education or polytechnics or monotechnics or whatever. Their target is to graduate, do the NYSC, and apply for a job in one of the most lucrative companies we have or organizations in Nigeria. Right or wrong? Everybody is waiting for the day when he will graduate, do his service, and then apply for a job, prepare his CV, curriculum vitae or vitae, and then go for interviews. I'm sure a lot of you that have graduated, that are in the labor market waiting for a job, have been constantly reading the newspapers looking for vacancies, applying for jobs. They have been thinking about the people who are connected, who can give them some notes so that they will go and get a job. But you can see this is a picture of people who have gone for an interview. And just imagine if you are one of these people, where do you start from? If they say they are going only to employ, even if it is going to be 10% of the people, who do you have that is so connected that he can give you the note that can influence it for you in this country? So this is a country in which we are living. Remember, the country in which we are living is a country that year in, year out produces thousands and thousands of graduates. Remember that every year, how many millions of people, or at least how many thousands and thousands of people sit for the JAM examination? And what is just the percentage of them who pass the examination, who get the minimum requirement or what they call the cut-off points for admission? How many of these people, out of those who have the cut-off points, what is the percentage of those who get to the next level by passing the post-UTME examination? How many of them, after passing the post-UTME examination, would be able to be admitted into the universities? How many of those who have been admitted into the universities have the ability, the capability to pay for the registration and graduate successfully without financial challenges? How many of those who have graduated get the opportunity to finish their NYSC successfully? And after graduating and finishing the NYSC, how many of them get the opportunity to be invited for interview in a very large crowd of people like the one we have just seen? And what happens to all those who have been systematically dropped out from the level of secondary school after graduating? They don't have the requirement to go, they don't have the 5 credits. All of them are Nigerians and are human beings that need one job or another, and the jobs are not necessarily available. So we have a number of graduates, hundreds of thousands of graduates, and people who are not even graduates, youth who are capable and able and willing to work and earn a living, but the opportunities are not necessarily there. So we have more and more graduates in Nigeria, year in, year out, but we have less and less job opportunities. I could recall there was a time in Nigeria, not more than 4 years plus or minus, when I read in the Daily Trust newspaper that I think it was FCDA that advertised for 68 vacancies. They wanted to replace some workers who had retired or gotten job in other companies and left. And so they had 68 vacancies for replacement. And they advertised in the Daily Trust. They said you can apply in the next 40 days. And Daily Trust was reporting after about 20 days that at that time, over 1 million people had already applied. Over 1 million people applying for 68 vacancies. But interestingly, there were people who were financially intelligent. They used that opportunity to create a job for themselves. Because of the way people were trooping into the office, the headquarters of that organization in Abuja, going with their CVs, printing the CVs, photocopying the CVs, putting in brown envelopes and submitting. Some people went, who were financially intelligent, they went there with their own photocopy machines, and they were already making money with these million people. This is what we will talk about, financial intelligence. Trying to make money using any opportunity, of course, through the halal means. Interestingly, and quite unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are battling with a serious challenge of economic backwardness. We know the challenges of our economy, even before what is happening now. By 2000, and in fact, since 1970s, and especially 1980s, there has always been the talk about continuous challenges of poverty. You know poverty, ko? Talauchi. Who likes talauchi? Nobody. Serious challenge. The economy is dwindling. There is a rising trend of poverty and unemployment. In fact, in 2009, one Charles Soludo was talking about the Nigerian economy, the then CBN governor. He talked about poverty, and unfortunately, he says poverty is a northern phenomenon. That is, even within the context of the backwardness of the Nigerian economy, Muslims or the Muslim-dominated northern Nigeria is the poorest community in Nigeria. It had and it has up till now the highest incidence of poverty. At that time, over 70% of the poverty of Nigeria is housed by northern Nigeria, unfortunately. In fact, the 10 poorest states of Nigeria at that time were all of them located in northern Nigeria. The state that took first in the examination of poverty, the poorest, was Jigawa State. It had 95% of its people living below the poverty line. That is, over 95% of the people of Jigawa at that time, Talakawan. Kano, the center of commerce, is among the poorest states. Somebody will say, Kano haba, yadda ake kasuwanci nan, you are only thinking about the city. How many local governments are within Kano? Not more than 6. And Kano has 44 local governments, right? Think of the people living in the rural areas. How many of them can afford education, health, 3 square meals, and other basic needs of life? Sakwato, Birnin Shehu. Sakwato, the seat of the caliphate. Yace Sakkwato dai birnin Shehu ta, to kuma birnin Islamu ta, ba birnin wani. That is Sokoto, the seat of the caliphate. But do you know one very interesting thing? Unfortunately, Sokoto, the seat of the caliphate, is among the 10 poorest states in the country. Zamfara, the Sharia state. Unfortunately, Zamfara is among the poorest states in northern Nigeria. And so on and so forth. This is to show us the challenge of poverty and how it affects us as Muslims. For us, the youth, we want to know about financial intelligence, financial literacy. Unfortunately, nobody teaches us financial literacy throughout our educational career in secondary school and even in the universities the higher institutions to a large extent. We are not introduced to how do you become Maikudi. How do you become Maikudi? And we will see whether it is important for somebody to be wealthy and become Maikudi from strictly a Quranic point of view and Sunnatic point of view. Unfortunately, even the business people, the businessmen in our society, they lack the basic knowledge of how to make their business actually a thriving business. If he is a person who sells some commodities, he doesn't have the basic skills of packaging and branding. He doesn't have the skills related to marketing and pricing, the science of pricing your commodity in a manner that it becomes competitive so that you will, excel in the business. They lack a lot of skills. They don't read, they don't attend courses, they don't watch programs, they don't listen to radio and television programs related to how do you move to the next level as far as your business is concerned. And even among the people who are wealthy, who have money in the society, or some who at least get some income, they lack the sciences of saving, investment, and how to spend wisely. Imagine a society where you will go to one big market like Kurmi or Kwari and see a person who has a store, and inside the store, if you enter, you see a lot of bags. You think they contain maize or rice or beans. No, it is nairas lying down in the shop. And whenever there is fire incidents, wal-iyazu billah, all the millions he owns come to the end of the world. They get burned by fire, and he has to start afresh. Imagine a person going and keeping 500 million or 200 million or 50 million in a bank, or somebody 100,000 in a bank, and just sitting waiting for interest. He doesn't know how to use this 500 million and make them grow to 700 million before the end of the year. We don't have these skills that we will become rich in the Islamic way. We don't have business initiatives. And how do you expect a person who doesn't have initiative to have finitiative? You must have initiative and finitiative. I will tell you, in my town in Gombe, there was one guy who came to the town, and he is called Ankano. He realized that in my society, in my community, there are a lot of cattle rearers, and so milk is not a problem. In fact, in the peak of the rainy season, if you go to the nearest, villages and towns from Gombe, you realize that people even go suna zubar da nono, because a Fulani woman will come out from her village with one koko, one calabash or kwaria of nono. She will go to the market, but because of the higher level of supply, when you have higher supply, excess supply, because of the level of supply everybody is bringing, there will be excess supply, more than the demand. And therefore they will do what Bahaushe will call quantity. Right? At the end of it, she will not be able to sell it all, and she has to carry it back to the village, and she knows that before tomorrow, there is army, and tomorrow she will be able to milk fresh one and get to the market. So the only option for her not to do dako is to go and pour it down and go back home. Because of our lack of business initiative. How many people can now think of developing a company that will be processing and packaging this nono and be using some motor, chi, and vehicles to carry it to Kano and Kaduna and Abuja, probably where there is higher demand and there is no much supply. Business opportunities. How many people are so financially intelligent to be able to do that? So when this man realized this, he said, okay. He opened a shop, and he made it the modern type of shop. Wherever you come to pass the place, you have to look at the place. Very beautiful, catchy. What he will be doing is to go and buy this, package it in this, what do you call it, robang, just this robang gorago, faro, these things. And so he will send some mutaneara to be buying this for him, or wherever somebody drinks faro and throws the container, they will carry it and he will give them 5 naira. And he will come, go and buy what we call nyauri. Kasan dambuko? Yes, some people don't have it, they have fura. So he has fura and dambu. It will be well packaged. If you test it, wow, very, very mazar oilers. You know? Yes. And before you know it, the whole town, you see the Mboko, somebody is a manager from in a bank. On his way back from office, he has to pack and carry this because it's ready-made. Baka bukatang fara damawa and so on and so forth. But do you know one thing? Before 1-2 years in Gombe, because of our lack of business initiative, people cannot initiate business. Before you know it, wherever you go in Gombe, there is no any angwa you will go in Gombe without saying Gidan Sham Farada no, because that is how he calls his place. He has tables. If you want safari, you will carry it and go. If you want hadariko, you sit down, take away, there is. And if you want to take it there is provision. And he has his own deep freezers. So everybody was opening Gidan Sham Ruada no. Before you know it, people saturated the market. Why don't you think of another creative business when somebody has started his own? This is because of lack of financial intelligence. Somebody came to me last, I think, 2 years or thereabout. He's a brother, he's a friend of mine. And he came to me and asked me, he said, I have come to you, my brother, with a complaint of somebody whom I know is a businessman in my environment. A cikin Gombe also. He said, na lura wannan mutumin, bawan Allah nan shekara da shekaru yana da shago da yake sai da kaya. Provisions, duk abun da kake bukata irin a cikin anguwa, dan cafananka, dan buhun masara yana kuncewa, dan shinkafa za ka auna ka je ka dafa a gida. Everything in the shop. Sai ce, amma na lura kwanan nan sai na ga kasuwancin nasa yana ci baya shagon. The shop is gradually being affected by the law of diminishing returns, isn't it? As the economist will say, it's shrinking. And so he said, please, what can you do? Ina so da Allah, tunda na san watakila kana da ilimin wa'ina abubuwan kaɗan zan kawo shi da Allah ku zo ku in ba shawara. Na ce ku zo, duk da cewa ma ideally there should be some consultancy, ko ba haka ba? Like you here, everybody is, ko hada ko there should be consultancy. That is financial intelligence. Yes. Now, they came. Ya ce min gashi wallahi shagon ya ci baya. Na ce to me matsalar? Kasuwancin naka ne yanzu an bar sayan kayanka? Ya ce abincin? Ai ana saya. Ya ce duk customer na suna zuwa. Amma dai gashi kuma abin sai baya yake. Da shagon yana cike amma yanzu ya yi baya. Na ce masa to shikenan. I hope you like the Engausa I'm using, Hausa and English. Yawa. Ya ce to shikenan. Na ce masa to amma ko akwai wani ne kusa da kai da ya bude shago irin wannan? Saboda competition in ya fi ka wayo ko zai kwace ka. Kasan in an samu wani in ya bude sai ya zama wayon da yake zai sai kullun zai sai kwalin cingam da na minti da na waye. Duk yaron da ya zo ya sai kaya wajensa zai ce ga kyautar minti. Wayo ne na kasuwanci. Duk yaron da aka aike shi gunsa zai zo saboda ya san akwai mintinsa yana jira. Financial intelligence. So ya ce min babu wani wanda ya fara. Na ce to me matsalan? Ya ce shi wallahi ya rasa ganewa. Kaya na tafiya. Na yi shiru na ce masa oke to bari mu biyo ta wani babi. Matanka nawa? Ya ce min alhamdulillah ina da guda 3. Na ce alhamdulillah, ni kuma lokacin ina gama ɗaya nake da ita. Na ce masa to yaushe ka aure ta 3? Ya ce a bara-baran nan ne ai, bai fi shekara 2, bai kai cika shekara 2 ba. Na ce masha Allah ta haihu? Ya ce min alhamdulillah tana da ɗaya da rabi ko? Yes, ta haihu har kuma tana kan hanyar na biyu. Na ce to ya wancan mata ta farkon kuma ta biyun yaushe ka aure ta? Shi ma tsakaninta watakila bai wuce 3 years ba. Na ce ta haihu? Ya ce a ita ba masha Allah. Ya ce ta farkon fa yaranta nawa? Ya ce gashi ya faɗa ni. Na ce cikin yaranka akwai wanda suka shiga makaranta ne bana? Ya ce min kwarai ko ai kaza sun shiga, bara kuma kaza sun shiga, bariya kuma kaza sun shiga. Na ce masha Allah. So na ce masa to masha Allah, kana da wata hanya da kuma kake samun kuɗi banda wannan? Ya ce shi ɗin dai wallahi shi ne dama yake riƙe min da gidan kuma lafiya komai na tafiya normal. Na ce masa to ka san wani abu? In economics, in financial literacy or financial intelligence, you always try to expand the level of your income as long as your own level of expenditure is expanding. Very simple formula. Da kana samun 30,000 a wata, gidanka gaba ɗaya akwai mutum 6, yanzu mutanen gidan sun zama mutum 12, kuma 30,000 kake samu. Ina fata an gane. Kaga ba za ta isa ba. Yaranka da ƙanana ne, abinda da suke ci yanzu yayi doubling. Da ba sa makaranta, baka biyan kuɗin makaranta, yanzu kana biya. Baka ɗinka musu uniform ɗin makaranta, yanzu kana ɗinkawa. Baka biyan kuɗin makaranta, yanzu kana biya. Baka bada kuɗin tara, yanzu kana bayarwa. Da matanka ɗaya ko 2 ko? Da matanka ɗaya, yanzu 3, kowace za ta je anguwa. Idan an haihu a gidansu za ta kai zani, za ta kai rigan suna, kuma duk kai kake yi. Duk wannan expenditure ne ya ƙaru. Shi yasa nauyin yayi wa income ɗin naka yawa. So a very simple formula. I told him, I said idan ka kalli gwamnati kawai, za ka ga idan an ɗauke ka aiki yau, if you are a worker, every year Even though your salary might be 100,000 or 30,000 depending upon the place, or 70, there is what they call annual increment. Every year they increase your salary with a little percentage. And after 3 years there is what they call promotion. They will have a somewhat huge increase in your own income, monthly income. Do you know why this? At least to take care of two things. To take care of the growing nature of your own expenditure and burden, and to take care of inflation, because usually the prices of commodities will be increasing almost annually. So to take care of that, that is why they do that. So if you are a businessman, you should also be able to have a plan to take care of your annual expenditure increment and inflation. So that's the simple formula. Wallahi ina fara masa tambayar nan da nace matanka nawa, yanzu yaran suna makaranta sai naga ya fara haka, ya fara gane karatun ko? A very simple thing. But I told him nace masa to abinda zaka yi malam, ka je ka kai tunani. Nace gidanka kana da katon fili babba haka wanda ba amfani? Yace akwai wani dan fili. Nace matanka akwai wanda take wata sana'a? Yace babu, dukansu jira suke yi allazi wahidun ko in ka kawo ya karba su karba. Yaranka akwai wanda yake wata sana'a? Yace babu. Nace to da ka je anguwan ku in akwai tela ka samu yaro ɗaya ka jauna masa ya koya masa sana'a. Matankan nan wacce ta iya ɗinki, in babu ka sa wata zai ta koyi ɗinki, riba da yawa za ka samu. Na farko duk rigar da ta tsage a gidanka ba sai ka biya kuɗin ɗinke ta ba. Na biyu kuma za ta na samun ɗan na ɓatarwa, ko ba haka ba? Don haka 'yan ƙananan bukatunta za ta biya. Wacce za ta iya kiwo, ɗan filin gidanka nan ka ba ta jari ta fara yi. Kai ma in akwai wata dabaran da za ka yi kuma ka ɗan yanke wani wuri ka ɗan yi kiwo, bismillah. Yaranka nan kuma mata ka sa wasu su je su koyi kitso. Don haka duk kuɗin da ake fitarwa na kitso a je wani waje zai zauna, sai dai wasu ma su shigo su kawo. Don ana ɗan wannan dabarbarun duk kuɗin su shigo, a buɗe ƙofofin da a buɗe winduna ko iska ta shigo ta ko ta ina, ko ba haka ba? Yawwa, kamar yadda yanzu ma zafi nake ji, kaga an buɗe winduna da ƙofofi a iska za ta fi shigo. I hope it's clear, please. This is a very simple formula. You are in the university, and students like this. In your class, in kana sayar recharge card, kana sayarwa ko wani abin da mutane suke bukata, za ka ga kana dan samun wani abu, sai ga dan kudin photocopying, dan hand out da hand in ko duk za ka samu. So these are some of the lessons I want us to learn from Malam Meshago. So I have been saying financial intelligence, financial intelligence. What is financial intelligence? I want to define financial intelligence by explaining what financial intelligence is not. Of course, financial intelligence, when we talk about financial intelligence, you are a worker. Don't assume that we are talking of how you will increase your own salary, even though it is another way of doing it. Because in some companies and organizations, especially not in Nigeria, outside the country, they pay you based on your own performance, hourly performance. Financial intelligence will be your ability to increase your own salary there. But that is not actually what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about teaching you how to make money tomorrow and become rich tomorrow. Quick fixes to getting rich or getting rich quick vaccine. That is not, I'm not going to give you a vaccine that will make you Angote from now to tomorrow. When we talk about financial intelligence, we are not talking about how to get a lucrative and paying good job. We are not talking about that. When we talk of financial intelligence, we are not talking about all this. We are talking about financial intelligence. Now let me give you a story. Have I defined financial intelligence now? Let me give you a story. The story of Mr. Johnson. And I want everybody to silently, to keep quiet. I will read it a hankali. Mr. Johnson was a top-notch, upwardly mobile executive. Wato wani ƙwararren ma'aikaci ne da saboda iya aikinsa kullum ana ta masa promotion. Yana executive ne in one of the new generation banks in Nigeria. He was so exceptional and extraordinary on his job. And because of that, he earned a lot of accolades, praises, and rewards from his superiors. In no time, he rose through the ranks. He was promoted consistently. So he became an Oga. He rose through the ranks and was soon promoted to a deputy general manager in the bank. His position entitled him to a serene and comfortable house in a choice area of Ikoyi in Lagos. In addition to this, also a fleet of cars, not only a car. Regular trips. Today he will go to Abuja for workshop. The next day it will be Calabar. Another day it will be Kano. In fact, he will be in Tokyo, in Japan. Next day probably it will be a workshop in the US, in the UK. Regular trips. Refresher courses. A lot of courses here and there about leadership skills, about management, about this and that. Personal development, communication, PR, public relations. A lot of refresher courses abroad and adequate allowances. The moment you are sent for a course, you will be given NATA, DTA. NATA. You will get a lot of allowances. You will receive a lot of alerts on a regular basis. Mr. Johnson enjoyed all he could. After all, he deserved it, having worked so hard. He was very hardworking. His family traveled every summer, and his wife was a regular face on the pages of society magazines. You know? Just last year, that was in 2009, this story was written in 2010. A tragedy struck. Something unfortunate happened. The tsunami that swept through the banking industry affected Mr. Johnson. Because probably he didn't have a degree, and they said they need people who had degree. He had probably just a diploma. The banking industry, you know what happened in 2009? It was that there was what is called consolidation, by Soludo. Somebody called consolidation, not consolidation, because it was by Charles Soludo. The tsunami that swept through the banking industry affected Mr. Johnson, and he was relieved of his appointment after 22 years of meritorious service. All the perks of office were withdrawn from him. No official cars, no trips that earns him allowances, no regular refresher courses, no this house that the bank pays for him, no upfront, which they pay him for being hired. And he soon realized he has nothing to fall back on, because whatever he had, he used it. He had no savings beyond a few months, and he later realized all his assets were actually liabilities, because they were things he will be using for consumption, and in the next 1 year or thereabout, they will get exhausted. His entitlement was not even enough to offset his loan, because banks usually give you a lot of loans, and he has not been able to pay back the loans, settle the loans. Worst of all, he had no home of his own. Higher AKE. And after a few struggling months, his wife said, "Baba, you know get money, oh. I no go chop babufa." And she left. Today, as the guy was writing the story of Mr. Johnson, today Mr. Johnson lives in an uncompleted building in Ikorodu, one very miscellaneous environment. He has started life all over again at the age of 54 years. That story was written in Punch page 48, 24th of April 2010. Any lesson for us in the story of Mr. Johnson? A lot of stories. Any lesson? A lot of them. And I leave you lessons related to saving, lessons related to investment, lessons related to consumption management, lessons related to how you should organize and plan your family. And if I say family planning, I don't mean reducing the number of the family anyway. Lessons on how you should be able to organize and manage your bashi and so on and so forth. So, do you need any definition of financial literacy anymore? You don't need that, because financial literacy is the ability to become opposite of Mr. Johnson. When we talk of financial literacy, it means financial intelligence. To be intelligent, to be wise in relation to wealth and finances. It is the mastery of how to make money, how to ensure that money works for you rather than you working for money. If we are to use the terminology of Robert Kiyosaki. Yes, a lot of people work for money, but the financial intelligent always allow money to work for him. People work for money throughout their life without making a plan to ensure that money works for them. Financial intelligence is the ability to wisely make money from halal, profitable businesses while concentrating on your job. Even though you might be a worker, a university lecturer, a teacher in a secondary school, or you might be a worker or a civil servant working with the local government, local education authority, state government or whatever, financial intelligence is the ability to make money from other sources while you maintain your job and you excel in your job. You go to work without doing chua-chua, and yet you have other means of making money. If you do that, you are financially intelligent. It is the ability, it is having the skills with ways to make money out of a supposed highly risky business. When we talk of risk, we mean where there is every tendency that if you go, you may not necessarily make profit. There is tendency of losing, but if you make the profit, you make a huge profit. If you are careful and clever and wise, you make a huge profit. Financial intelligence is the ability to identify the strengths and weaknesses of a venture, a potential business, trying to analyze and identify the strength of that potential business and the weaknesses of that, the potentials and the challenges of that business, and then the ability to, after identifying that, to have a concrete plan and strategy and execute and succeed the strategy and become successful, inshallah. It is the mastery of the science of risk aversion in business. It is simply, when we say financial literacy or financial intelligence, the same concept. It is simply to be educated about, to be wise about the art of saving, the science of investment, and then rational spending, as well as mastering greed management and debt management. How do you manage your greed? You always like to enjoy. How do you control that attachment towards quick enjoyment? You know, to delay it, delayed gratification, and then the ability to manage bashi in your life, even when it becomes inevitable. How do you ensure that bashi, all the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that talk about bashi, you ensure that you work in line with the positives they talk about. The financially intelligent, therefore, is the person who aims at and works hard towards being rich in the halal way. He goes into the business not only to get biyan bukata, as they say. He goes into the business with the intention of becoming rich. Is it wrong for you to target becoming rich? Is it bad? If you are intelligent, financially intelligent, go with the intention of becoming rich in the halal way. Somebody, Robert Kiyosaki, says, it's a kafir ko, but al-hikmatu dallatul mu'min, as they say. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. If you are intelligent, you can use that intelligence to solve your problems and make money. But he says money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. Remember Mr. Johnson. He has money, but he has no financial intelligence. So we're talking about wealth and financial wealth or money. The question is, what is wealth and who is wealthy? For us to be able to define wealth, we should just try to answer this question. How many days can you survive? Any worker here? Anybody who is a civil servant? In kana da kuɗi ko ai kana aiki a wani waje ana biyan ka baka daga hannu ba, in the next 2 seconds Allah ya saka maka da alkhairi. Okay, those who work, please, or those of us who are businessmen, this is a question. Listen, how many days can you survive without physically working or anyone else working for you in your household physically? For those who delegate others to do business, how many days can you survive if you don't go to work, you don't go to market, and nobody manages your business? And still, how many days can you survive without working and without earning from your work, but still maintain your own standard of living? How many days can you? You don't go to Kaswa, but you have enough savings to take care of you for how many days? Can anyone maintain himself for 1 year without his salary? How many of us can do that? How many of us, anyway, how many of us can have up to about 700,000 naira in their account, kept and saved for 1 year? How many of us? No one is having zakah. Now, how many of us can keep 600,000 in their account up to next year? So all of us are poor. None of us is zakah worthy. Isn't it? If you know you cannot survive for 1 solid year without earning more income, you are poor. You are not rich. You are not wealthy. Now let's talk about Islam and wealth. Somebody will say, wannan dai da na dauka ustaz ne kuma yazo na ta magana akan kudi ko? Ba bari mu ga me Qur'ani yace kan kudi ko ba haka ba? Let's talk about Islam and wealth. Because the moment we don't change our own paradigm, we don't have a paradigm shift about money and wealth, we'll continue to have this challenge of poverty that we have in our society. You have millions of children roaming around the streets without going to school. They are begging. Women begging. Children begging. Household begging. In fact, we have professional beggars. What? Blue collar beggars. Somebody calls them. Now, my brothers in Islam, if you read the Quran, I have heard scholars say, and I agree to a large extent with that, if you read the Quran, you will see that the number of verses of the Quran that talk about spending in the cause of Allah, al-infaqu fi sabilillah, the number of verses that talk about this is more than the number of verses that talk about salah in the Quran. What does that mean? If the Quran encourages you to spend, ma la yatimul wajibu illa bihi fahuwa wajib. If Quran encourages you to spend, that means the Quran encourages you to also what? Pursue wealth. Because if you don't have it, فاقد الشيء لا يعطيه. You can't give what you don't have. In fact, immediately after the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, of course, the first thing he did was to establish his masjid. But one of the earliest things he did after this was to ensure that Muslims had a market in Medina. And he went and observed a place and said to his people, this is your market, and there will not be tax. I hope it's clear. And he said there wouldn't be price control. You are allowed to do your business with mercy. And we know that one of the 5 pillars of Islam is what? Is zakah. And zakah, especially zakah of wealth, is when you have some surplus which you have kept in your account or in your own zakah or buhu in the shop for more than 1 year. That means you don't need it. It is part of it that you are supposed to pay 2.5% or 1/40. That means Islam wants you to go and look for money and become rich so that you will have the surplus and pay zakah. So Islam likes wealth. So among the 5 fundamental pillars of Islam is zakah. If you don't believe that zakah is wajib and obligatory, you are not a Muslim. But interestingly also, virtually all the 5 pillars of Islam are in a way, especially the last 4, they are in a way connected to wealth. Because after salah, after shahadatain, the next is what? Salah. You cannot go and do salah without dress. You buy the dress. The mosque you pray in is built with money. Right or wrong? But then second, the third most important pillar of Islam is zakah. And we know about zakah is money and wealth. And then the other important thing after this, the 4th pillar of Islam is what? Is fasting, sawm. You don't need to be told that immediately after, during the time of Buddha Baki, you need some money to settle the Middle Belt crisis. Isn't it? So you need money. And then there is the last one is what? Is Hajj. لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ. You need enough. وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ. You need wealth to pay for the travel, and as you are taraba, you are on zad, guziri. So they are all connected to. In other words, if you are poor, automatically there are some basic fundamental teachings of Islam where you are exempted. You might be exempted from 2 because you don't have the ability. Zakah and Hajj. If you don't have kudi, you cannot do them. سيدك زما يد الصغرى اليد العلى خير من اليد السفلى. يد السفلى. You will only be the receiver hand, not the giver hand. The upper, the lower hand, not the upper hand. If you check the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there are many verses of the Quran we can use to support Islam's permissibility, Islam's permission to pursue wealth, to look for wealth, to seek for money, to become rich the Islamic way, of course, through halal way. No riba, no maisir, no gharar, no specifically prohibited transactions as we do in the classes of Islamic finance. The Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith that everybody has memorized, some of his companions came to him and said, Ya Rasulallah, ذهب أهل الدثور بالأجور. Ya Rasulallah, the rich men, the rich people have gone with all the rewards. يصلون كما نصلي. If it is hayya ala salah, we pray in the same rows with them. ويصومون كما نصوم. If it is fasting, they do as we do. Probably they even do more nafila fasting because they have what to take after during Buddha Baki. So we are equal here. وَيَتَصَدَّقُونَ بِفُضُولِ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. But they can give the surplus of their wealth in charity through zakah and through supererogatory sadaqah. So here, they can do it, we can't. The Prophet ﷺ said, I think you can go and do kullu tahmidat, takbiratin sadaqah. He mentioned some takbirat, some tahmid, some kaza, that you can go and do so that you can cover the deficit. But immediately the Ahlul Duthur heard about it, they also joined the queue. They were doing the same. So in other words, they have the opportunity to get a reward in a manner that the poor cannot. Probably he only earns his reward through patience. When Sa'd came to the Prophet ﷺ, he was sick, he was about to die. He asked the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya Rasulallah, can I give afa'atasaddaqu bithuluthai mali? Can I give 2/3 of my own wealth in sadaqah? Before dying, I have my children, but I am wealthy, I have enough wealth. I'm thinking of giving 2/3 as sadaqah and leaving just 1/3 for them as gado. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, you cannot do that. He said, okay, can I give half of it in sadaqah? The Prophet said, no, you cannot do that. And he said, okay, Ya Rasulullah, can I give 1/3 and leave them with 2/3? The Prophet ﷺ says, Ath-thuluth wa-thuluthu kathir, aw kabir. He said, and scholars translate it in two ways. They say the Prophet said, even 1/3 is still huge amount. If you want to give huge amount, go and give with 1/3, you still give huge amount. So go ahead to do it. Others say, no, the Prophet said 1/3, well, even that one is much far. I hope it's clear. Now the Prophet said, La antadhara warathataka aghniya khayrun min antadharahum alatan yatakaffafuna an-nas. To die and leave your children in affluence, to leave your children wealthy and rich, is much better than dying, leaving them in poverty, such that they will be begging, they will continue to be begging and relying upon others. Leave behind you very big mansions for them, fleets of cars for them, dollars in some accounts that have been earned through halal ways, not through chuachuetic means. So this is what the Prophet said. Yace ka rasu ka bar ƴaƴanka cikin wadata. Shi yafi maka alkhairi akan ka mutu ka bar ƴaƴanka za su zama mabarata suna allazi wahidun Allah ba ku mu samu. Wai su ba su da confidence kan Allah fa ba za su roke shi Allah ba mu ba, wai sai da Allah ba ku mu samu. Saboda tsabar ma ba tauhidi ko ba haka ba? So please, this is what the Prophet ﷺ says. What is the Prophet ﷺ saying? You can plan for your children. You can be rich. You can save. You can invest. You can be financially intelligent. And one of the Salaf was seen conducting some business. He is a scholar. I think it was Sufyan al-Thawri, I've forgotten. Yana kasuwanci sosai, yana business, yana jan kilo. Ko? Yana ganin alat. Wani ya ce masa akaramakallahu, kuma malamai kuma fi sabilillahi mai haɗa ku da neman ɗan dala. Shi ne ce masa, ya ce, ai kaga wannan abin da nake yi, da shi nake sama kaina mutunci. Nake sauƙi nauyin da Allah ya ɗora min. Ya ce, kuma bari in gaya maka. Ya ce, walaula hadhihi dananir latamandala bina ha'ula'il muluk. Ya ce, kaga in ba don waɗannan dinarori da nake samu ba, nake samun su ta hanyar halal na mutunci, ya ce da wallahi sarakunan nan shugabanninmu nan sai sun mai da mu hankaci na goge dattinsu. Abin nufi su je su yi barnansu su zo su dan baka wani abu akan akara maka Allah ka hawo minbari ka ce a jama'a ko wa aliyullaha wa aradiur rasula wa ulil amri minkum. Barna yi fa sai a ji an ce wa ulil amri minkum a kau da kai. Walaula hadhihi. So you can see even the Salafus Salih, were engaged in business because they understood these verses. How many of the Asharatul Mubasharuna bil Jannah that are poor? At least we know Abu Bakr was rich, to the extent that when the Prophet ﷺ requested for investment, for spending in the cause of Allah, he will carry all the wealth and give. The Prophet will ask him, what have you left for your family? He said, Allah and His Messenger. Umar will carry, because he was rich, he will bring at least half of the wealth to the Prophet ﷺ. Uthman, you know what happened? He was rich and rich and rich. He was extremely, if you like it, extraordinarily rich. Abdurrahman bin Auf and many of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they are saying I have not more than 20 minutes, and I think I have achieved a lot in gingering us about the importance of wealth, even if I have not been able to show us how we can get the money. There is what they call money illusion. Money illusion is, a lot of people have this disease. In economics, there is what they call nominal income, and there is what is called real income. Real income has to do with the value of your income, what your income can do for you. Income after tax. I hope it's clear. The effectiveness of your own income to solve your own problems. So some people, like, there are a lot of people who assume that if you work in Abuja and you are paid 200,000, I came a kudini. A lot of people have this money illusion. They see money from the quantitative perspective, not from the qualitative perspective. I have a friend who is even now working with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and I always cite example of him. When he was employed, he was posted to the headquarters of that organization, and they pay him kudis will say Abuja. But after some time, because he is financially intelligent, he struggled, he applied and looked for, what do they call it, relocation, transfer to Bauchi, and he is from Gombe. That time, ya dan dade karka je ka yi research ka ce wane ne shi ko, and he was transferred. His colleagues were saying, haba mutumina kana shell kwata ka ma baka da wayo, kana gindin maganin ko, kai da kake inda ake hada abubuwa harkoki. Yace naji. And I asked him, because I'm interested, financial intelligence. I asked him, my friend, why? He said, do you know what? He said, assuming they are paying me 400,000 in Abuja. In Abuja, if I am to have a house, I have to go to dan gefe haka, in samu gida mai tsada, a dan ban dan daki daya, da dan ban daki hakan nan inda in nayi bako ma ban san ya zan yi ba, ko a shekara a ce in biya 100,000 kaza. Ina matse kuma ina matse. Ina matse saboda zan bada kuɗi da yawa, ina matse kuma saboda gidan yayi matsi. In nayi bako sai na biya kuɗin masauki, ko ba haka ba, and so on and so forth. Yace kuma gidana dole yana da nisa zuwa office. Man da zan kona akan hanya kullum, in nayi lissafi a wata sai in sha man 20,000 ko 30 ko sama da haka. A wancan lokacin kenan, lokacin da yan ciwaciwon nan ba su zo suna yi ba, ko ba haka, what is happening now, ko subsidy. Yace sannan kuma albasa, in na saya albasa da zan saya ta naira 200, in a Bauchi ne ta naira 20 zan same ta ko 30 ko 40, ko ba haka ba. So ta in da na yi lissafi, sannan kuma gashi ina nesa da gida, ina so in je in gaida iyayena, sai na yi ta lissafi, sai na yi ta tsarawa kafin samu dama in je. kuma da na je gida saboda na daɗe ban je ba kowa yana tsammanin ka zo na Abuja ya iso, ko ba haka ba? Ya ce amma ina kusa da gida kowane sati sai in ɗan leƙa Gombe, in na je ni wannan in na goggo wance ta haihu na ɗan jira dubu ɗaya na bayar, a ce ka yana kyautatawa, ka yi duk buƙatar da ta taso ka ɗan solving ƙaramar problem. Ya ce wallahi da na dawo Bauchi da na ɗauki naira 250, wani ma keken gida na samu a ta GRA mai kyau na biya. Sannan kuma ya ce nan aikin ma ba yawa sosai, don haka ranar Juma'a tun karfe 1 in an tafi sallan Juma'a ya halatta mana, an ce mun an yadda mu tafi, sai in yi gida, don haka matata ma tana Gombe, na sa ta a jami'a tana karatu. In na tafi ba zan dawo ba sai ran Monday da sassafe in kamo awa 1 da rabi ya kawo ni Bauchi, za a tashi zan yi ta Gombawa ɗaya ban fali ba kwana da ku ba a tashi. Ina fata mun fahimci wannan fikihu. Ya ce to yanzu ka san Allah savings ɗin da nake, ce to duk wannan ban gaya ma wani abu ba. Ya ce muna zaune a Abuja kusan kowane wata 3-4 za a mutane za su zo workshop ko course ko wani conference na office ko wani meeting, right? Idan suka zo, ya ce duk wanda ya zo zai kwana 3 ko 4 za a bashi night allowance, za a bashi kuɗin jirgi, za a bashi allowance na kaza, za a bashi kaza. So za ka samu kowane 2-3 months in ya zo tafiya package ɗinsa sai ka ga yana da wajen 600,000, 700,000 gwargwadon girmansa, ko 400,000, ni kuma abin 150 saboda Abuja nake, ba kuɗin mota, ba kuɗin jirgi, ba kuɗin nata, ba night allowance. Ya ce amma ni ma yanzu kaga na shigo sahu masu jan wannan kilo. So this guy doesn't have money illusion. He is not only, kuma in an baka yanzu, in an baka naira 100,000 a kana Kano da wanda yake karban 150 a Abuja, wa ya fi more kudinsa? Mai 100 a Kano. So saboda it is not the quantity that matters, the quantity, the quality, the effect, the power of the money to solve your own income. So what matters is not just nominal rise in income, but the ability of the income to solve your own problems. So you shouldn't deceive yourself at thinking that because your own nominal income has increased, your own status has risen. So when they talk about income, they are talking about the amount an individual can spend in a period while leaving his or her capital unchanged. If you are a businessman, you have 50,000 naira capital, or you have 500 million naira capital, your income is not that 500 million naira capital. No, understand that. In kai dan kasuwa ne, kar ka dauka wai da ka sayi da ka san haka wasu ke, ya sa jarinsa kawai da an je shi yayi lissafi naira 10 aka sayo, naira 12 aka sayo, shi ya dauka biyun shikenan riba. Akwai yan wasu rataye-rataye, ko ba haka ba? If you have done accounting, you know trading profit and loss accounting. Ko? You know that is a basic thing. There are a lot of things. Take care of the bills related to electricity. Take care of depreciation in the value of some of the assets you use. There are a lot of things. So you need that financial intelligence. So it is not just, so anything that comes into the business or into your pocket, apart from your own capital, but from that capital, from that business, might be seen as your own income. But somebody says income is the amount that can be spent consistently with being able to maintain the same level of spending in the future. That is what in economics they call permanent income. There are theories of expenditure or income, they call them income determination. So income, they say, is what you are able to earn through your trade or labor, not transfer earnings. There is difference between income and transfer earning. In amma kyauta, you don't call it income in economics. You have to do something and get it before it becomes income. We don't have time to to discuss more about this, but Let us briefly talk about sources of income. My brothers, I have a list of sources of income. Which one do you think is a practical and reliable source of income? Number one, begging. Yes or no? Is begging a source of income? You have money. Even though one of my lecturers told me, he said there are two types of begging can be singing, begging can be also an income. He said, in maroƙi zai same ka yace allazi wahidin Allah baku musamu. In yace Allah baku musamu, he has offered a service, ya maka addu'a. So you are paying for that service. Ko ba haka ba, in yazo yana maka wakan 20 ko? Shi mutum ne karimi, mai yawan haƙuri rahimi, ya aboki na asimi, in ka so ka zamo salimi, ka bi annabi ba da kangara. Wa ya kai wa ya yi kamar ka, wa ya san asali ya naka, wa ya samu irin rabonka, tunda Allah ya yabe ka duka wanda yake kama yi gaba. Kaga ai ne maka haka ko? Kaga in yi haka ai yayi maka service ne saboda da ya waka ka ji daɗi ko ba haka ba. To amma wannan by the way ne ko ba wai shi ne. Okay, another source. A lot of people have this. Unfortunately, Muslims. Just last 3 weeks, I was giving a lecture to MSc students in Bayero University, Kano, Islamic finance. And we were talking about interest. And one of the students mentioned, she said in one of the banks, one old man came. He is a retiree. And he came to the cashier in his bank and told her, today is 28th, and I want to make a withdrawal from my own account. I hope there is not any problem. It was, I think, 28 years of the month. He said, she asked him, isn't it your money? But couldn't come on the account, what problem? You can withdraw. He said, okay. And he withdrew. And then after about 7 days or thereabout, he came back. Yana ta faɗa. Yace kin cuce ni. Kin ce ba matsala. What is the issue? Wai sai ta gane ashe da aka hada masa dan benefit ɗinsa. Zuwa ya zo ya ajiye a banki a kowane ƙarshen wata ana bashi interest da ya kai kaman 7,000-8,000. Wannan ne yake dan amfani da shi yana solving problem ɗinsa riba. To dama in kai withdrawal sama da 2 ya kai 3 ne ko wani abu makamancin wannan, to shikenan ba za ka samu interest din ba. To yau shi a shi da yace akwai matsala yana nufin wannan zai iya hana ni don na zo na 3 ne. Zai iya hana ni in samu interest wannan watan, ita bata gane ba. Imagine Muslims relying upon interest as their own source of income. Source of income. Some people go for gambling, unfortunately. But there is a halal way. You can wait for zakah now. Tamanin marabbuka ko? Malan yaki noma dan zakah. But of course, you know that one is also discouraged for a Muslim. You have to work. In fact, I will give you a story of a person. A sheikh was teaching his student. And he realized that they will come, they will read all the books of fiqh, hadith, and others. But after they finish, they go, he doesn't have what to pay for his families, to settle his family bill. Ya zauna yayi tunani yace kaga bazan ba ku karatu ku je ku ci tuwo ni ina zaune ban da girki ba. Next day sun zo karatu an gama yace subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifuna wa salamun alal mursalina walhamdulillahi rabbil alamina. Wannan rufe karatun da aka yi ba na yau bane, na shekara 3 ne, don yanzu kun ganni jakata a daure take zan tafi neman kuɗi. Suka ce akara maka Allah ya ce a'a ku bar ni. Ya tattara kayansa ya bar gari zai tafi, me ake kiran abun? Ci damuna ko ci rani sunansa. Suka fita, ya fita kawai yana tafiya, ya gama duk plan ɗinsa. Yana zuwa bayan gari zai fita daga gari sai ya ga wani tsuntsu. Kan ku ce Hausa ta ba kyau ko? Ya ga wani tsuntsu yana zuwa kusa da shi ya ga tsuntsun nan baya gani, idanunsa a rufe suke, makaho ne. Ya ga fiffikensa ɗaya baya tashi, ya ga ƙafarsa ɗaya, ya yi haka fab ya gane kurma ne, baya iya tashi, baya jin abin da yake. To kun san akramakallahu inna ma yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama. Shi malami dama wa fi kulli shay'in lahu ayatun tadullu ala annahu wahidun. Yana neman abin da zai ƙara masa fahimtar Allah ne, ce kai akwai ayar Allah anan, ya yake ya rayu, ina yake ganin abinci bare ya ci, bari in tsaya in ga ya yake rayu, kuma ya ganshi bulbul har yana dan yalƙi ma kila saboda koshi. Ya jira bayan wasu 'yan mintuna kawai can sai ga wasu tsuntsaye kenan ko guda biyu sun zo suna hakan nan da suka sauka a gefensa. Da suka sauka a gefe sai ɗayan sai ta zo ko ya zo sai ya taɓa jikinsa, da yana ɗan bacci, kamar ya ɗan bacci sai ya tashi, yana tashi kawai haka sai ya buɗe bakinsa, wannan tsuntsun sai ya ɗan ɗiga masa abinci, ya je ya ɗebo da yawa sai ya jefa masa, sai ya jefa masa, ya jefa masa, har yi haka zai jefa, ya ga ya haka, ya je intaha kenan ƙarshen ƙawa'idi ko ya ƙoshi. Sai ɗayan kuma ya zo ta gefe sai ya haka, sai ya zuba masa ruwa, suka baci tuwo ya ƙoshi. Wannan bawan Allah kawai sai hawaye ko ya tuno hadisan annabi da ayoyi ko, da kuna yin tawakkali ko ba haka ba, kamar yadda Allah yake so ku yi tawakkali, da ya yi me, da ya azarta ku kamar yadda yake azarta. Ya ce ka, ya ce to ai dai ba sai na wahal da kaina ba, in koma in karantar insha Allah Allah zai rike ni. Shi ma na tawakkalin sai ya shigo, sai ya dawo gida kawai ya yi wal ribasu da yin ribas faralun farilla ne, kawai ya dawo gida ko haka ba. Yana isowa gida sai ya ga first abin da ya sai ya gamu da wani akramakallahu, ya ce dan uwansa malamai, ta akramakallahu ya dai, ya ce wallahi ai ikon Allah na gani, ai gani na yi kaza da kaza, ni ma sai na ce to insha Allah in dai zan zauna in yi tawakkali Allah zai kawo mai bani. Ya ce haba akramakallahu, me zai hana kai ka zama tsuntsu mai kawowan maimakon ka zama tsuntsu mai karban? Ina fata an gane ko? So for a Muslim, always try to be the giver bird, not the receiver bird. And that is why you should be financially intelligent. Some people have a source of income, inheritance, gado ko, wani na jiran babansa ya mutu. Wallahi akwai su ko ba ku sani ba. But the problem is sometimes the dad may not be rich, and za ku watakila ma ya riga uban mutuwa mu gani. Some people, when you talk about source of income, they talk about job, wages and salaries ko, but the jobs kun gani ai ko ba haka ba, where are the jobs? They are not there, not forthcoming. And even if you have a job, in most cases the salary will not be enough for you, and it consumes all your time. Ka tafi office tun da safe, ka tafi ka dawo can da daddare ka gaji, you don't have time for socialization probably. And there is the challenge of job security. Remember Mr. Johnson. And that's why somebody said job is nothing but just over broke. It's just a little above being broke. Go Hakaba. Yes. But one of the interesting aspects is returns from investments. Even if you have a job, but one of the most reliable sources of income is returns from investment, proceeds from your investment. Try that, and you can only achieve that when you try to be an employer, in most cases, not an employee. So try as much as possible, my brothers, to see how we can create jobs rather than waiting for some people to create the jobs and provide opportunity for us to get employed there. The advantage is when you contribute in creating jobs, if in investing, in coming up with new businesses, you will contribute to the development of the economy of the country. in many ways. You will provide goods and services. You will create job opportunities for others. And when you provide goods and services that are needed by people, you you contribute to reducing macroeconomic problems of inflation and so on and so forth. You contribute to the welfare of people. Because mutum yana so ya ci kaza kuma babu kazan, in kai kana business din samar da kaji, kaga ai zaka sama masa ko ba haka ba, ka ba da gudumawanka. And then you will earn more income, far more than bank interest, if it is somebody who has some kudi, rather than going and keeping them in the bank. Gashi dama banki ma ai kudi take newa, dan kadan take tsakura maka, gashi kuma haramun ne. Ayoyi da yawa suna jiranka, ko ba haka ba? الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. ran tashin kiyama Allah ya kiyaye, ran tashin kiyama in ka ga mutum ya tashi yana layi, karka tambaya maciyar riba ne a duniya, yana tashi yana faduwa ko maciyar riba kenan. Allah ya sare. So kaga you don't need to go for that. Better invest the money, create jobs for others, make halal earning, which is even higher also. Ga albarka kuma, ga albarkan Allah, ga ladan da zaka samu wajen inda in kai employee mutum biyu ko uku suna cin tuwo ko, and so on, and you will have more time to socialize. Of course, investment is challenging. It requires time, it requires creativity, and it requires hard work. I don't know whether I have time, but let me quickly talk about the issue of saving, because in most cases when you tell somebody go and do business, they say maka wa yake ba, wa zai bada jari ko ba haka bane, ce wa zai baka jari. But let me ask, do you think saving is possible in these days, given your meager income and competing needs? A lot of people, you should ask yourself whether it is possible for you to save when you are battling with the little you get. But let me say that it is a mistake that many people do make when they say suna jiran wanda zai ba su jari su yi kasuwanci. They will not create a means of saving. They will not develop the culture of saving and creating capital. They will ask you, who will give you the capital? And my answer is, you give yourself the capital. Don't wait for others. Use your financial intelligence to create capital from nothing. Right or wrong? That's why we don't talk about capital giving. We talk about capital creation in the classes of economics and business. There are many sources if you want to start business, my brothers. Are you ready to start business? Yes. There are a lot of sources you can explore, but they require a lot of skills and thinking and intelligence. Some people go for loan from banks. Karka yadda da wannan saboda haramun interest is there. And in most cases, people who collect loan from banks, wallahi daga duniya suna fara ganin ayar Allah tana aiki ko? Saboda Allah madaukin sarki yace me, fa in lam taf'alu fa'dhanu bi harbin min Allah wa rasulihi. So they see the harb even in the business. But importantly, people can use cooperative societies to create capital. Especially for those of us who don't have the discipline to keep aside some portion of their own income. You can create a cooperative society, and it requires a lot of lectures and readings for you to understand the real workings of cooperative societies. But if you work in a business environment or in a company or in the local government headquarters or in the university or as teachers in one of the schools, you can have a cooperative society whereby you will be able to be creating capital to the members on rotational basis. Even this adashe that people do is a form of cooperative, and it helps in creating capital. Some people will go for loan. If you have identified a business, you draw a business plan, a business proposal with all the details of the plan, what is required as capital. Some people explore the opportunity they have of good friends who have some resources at their disposal. If you have friends that can give you, you can go ahead to do that. But in most cases, we don't have the friends who have the surplus that we require, the surplus resources that they can even give us as loan. But one other way is if you require 200,000 to do a business and you can only get 50,000, why don't you go for partnership? Look for one or two colleagues that are relatively trustworthy and then confront them, consult them, discuss, have a joint venture so that you can jointly own the business through musharaka or through mudaraba and so on and so forth, which are Islamic modes of financing that you can use in business. But one important thing to do is if you develop the art of saving, you develop the discipline of saving through different ways, you can have it. But what is saving? Saving is one of the ways of creating capital, of course. And ordinarily you can say simply saving is the excess of income over your expenditure. So your income usually is divided into expenditure, saving probably, and investment. If you are not a person who invests, then what you get as your income can be shared between kashewa and adanawa. You spend some percentage and then save some percentage. But you should know that it requires a lot of financial discipline for you to be able to save some of your own resources. In fact, somebody will go and keep some amount in the name of saving, but he will be tempted to spend that money the moment he checks his pocket and sees that he doesn't have a kobo. He will go and chop what he has saved. So it is the ability to sacrifice today's little consumption for a better and more sustained future consumption and welfare and enjoyment for you. There are a lot of things that will determine your ability to save. We don't have time to discuss them. But this is an exercise for those of us who work, who earn some income, some salary on a monthly basis. I just want you to do this exercise, and probably it will be among the things we will do before we close. Assuming you are a worker and you earn a salary of 50,000. I'm trying to bring average, but I don't want to say you earn 20. I hope my brothers will be earning more than that. Oh? If a person earns 50,000 naira, and how much does he earn every year? He earns 50 times what? Times 12. So if you have been earning an average of 50,000 naira for the past 10 years, how much will you have earned by now? 6 million naira. Is there anybody who has been earning an average of 50,000 naira for the past 10 years here? Or what of 30,000? If it is 25,000 you have been earning for the past 10 years, how much will you have earned for now? 3 million? Now you ask yourself, what if the person is earning 100,000? 12 million? What if he has been earning more than that? Now the question is, if you have been earning an average of 25,000 or let's say 50,000 for the past 10 years, 6 million. If we ask you, where is this 6 million? What can you say? Suna shadda. They are all in your own toilet. But had it been, you were able to just take a small portion of that and you have been saving. If it is just 10% of that, probably you will have 600,000 already saved. I hope it's clear. So you can see saving, what savings requires from you, is just the ability to constantly save a small portion, because small amount plus consistency is equal to what? Small plus consistency is equal to greatness. What is happening? Somebody says great men are not great because they did great things. In other words, it is not doing great things that make great people great. Great men are not great because they did great things, but because they did many little special things, if you like, consistently. So if you are able to save small amount, but you are consistent in that, you will be able to save something reasonable which you can use to invest. You can use as capital, and then you invest it. Another person says, I am not afraid of a person who knows 10,000 kicks, but I am afraid of a person who knows one kick but practice it 10,000 times. I hope it's clear. You do small, but you consistently do. As the Pakistanis will do, what Pakistani women were doing was when their husbands were giving them kudin cefane. Kun san me suke yi? In an kawo kudin cefane an yi lissafi sai ta dan cire wani abu. Abin da yake bayarwan zai isa. In ta dan rage wani percentage ba wai na munafurci ba sai tana adanawa. Mijin bai sani ba sai an kai wani lokaci sai ta ce masa mai gida mu yi kasuwanci kaza. Idan za a samu jari ce ka yadda in samo mana jari na halal? To ga wannan kudin na samo shi ne amma ga yadda na yi. In mai gidan mai ganewa ne zai ce masha Allah, to me za a yi sai a yi. This is a way. Yadda mutanenmu suke yi a ƙauye, kun gane su ai, Fulani. Idan aka haifi yaro yau, we are talking about how to create capital, ko? It's something that is good. An haifi yaro yau, yana zuwa duniya watakila lokacin suna an kawo mamarsa kaza da kaza, in ta dan kadar da su ta dan sai da su sai ta samu yar kaza guda daya sai ta saya masa a satin da aka yi suna, sai suna girma tare. Na fata an gane. Sai suna girma tare, kaza daya bayan dan wata biyu uku ta girma, ta kai ta yi kwai, ta yi yaya, ta yi mai, yana dan girma, can a kai level din da yanzu ya fi karfin kaza, sai a dan sassayar, sai a dan saya masa yar karamar tinkiya. Ana nan yana girma har sai ka gan shi bawan Allah yana da me, yana da ɗan garken tumaki. Kafin ka ce lokacin da zai yi kaza, idan kai wa ɗanka haka akaramaka Allahu, ka san me zai faru? Bi idhnillahi lokacin da zai zo ya shiga university zaka ga ba abin ka bashin biyan kuɗin registration. He can do it for himself. This is a saving if you like it. Of course, it's an investment. And you remember the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ahabbul a'mali ila Allah adwamuha wa in qalla." The deeds most loved by Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. To, kamar yadda na faɗa abin da yawa kuma babu lokaci, kuma kamar yadda na faɗa mana dama na tsara shi ne ba irin wannan na lecture ba. Akwai abubuwa da yawa da za a so a faɗa, amma dai alhamdulillah na san na ɗan yi jinjarin ɗin mu kaɗan, ko ba haka ba? Fata na shine daga yau zuwa baɗi insha Allahu, duk wanda yake nan kafin baɗi ya je shi ya ɗan samu wata 'yar kaza ya saya ta girma har ta zama tinkiya. Kun gane abin da nake nufi? Ka je ka zauna ka yi mitin da iyalanka, ka yi ƙoƙari duk ƙananan buƙatun gida da yaronka zai iya biya wa kansa kuɗin tara saboda yana zuwa koyon kanikanci ko tela. Yarka da take cikin gida ta koyi kitso, don haka ba ta biyan kudin kitso, tana dan samun dan na kashewa. Matarka ka sama mata tana kiwon kaza ko sana'ar kaza. Let us think of what we can do to help ourselves out of poverty. Allah ya raba mu da talauci. Mutum mai mutunci idan ya talauta a mai sai shi mugun da ba gaskiya, talakan mutum ba shi zance a taro fa zancen shi sai dai cikin zuciya. Talauci mutum ne baki mai gizo da doro da tozo da annakiya, in ya kama yaro ya tattankwara shi ya mai sai shi tsoho da karfin tsiya. Wassalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Please get seated. Alhamdulillah. These are some of the blessings of everything. I think you will believe with me that because we have the powerful hands that will guide us and lead us to the right path. Please, nobody is allowed to go back to the hostel. If you are caught in the hostels now, you find yourself to blame. That is the order from the accommodation officers and the security. Don't let you be found in the hostels now. You will only be allowed to get into the hostels after night program. So please don't get there. We have no time to answer questions or to ask questions because we are very close to Maghrib now, and most of you will like to perform ablution again. So please, in the next 5-10 minutes, you go and perform your ablution, come back, we pray Maghrib, and we continue with the Ta'lim of Brother Umar Dadapego. He should be around now and lead us in the Ta'lim.